Hey there! Welcome to Otherwise Words. My name is Mark Herman Lynch. I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Calgary in creative writing, and welcome to another free write. So typically when I free write, what I do is I pick a couple words and I try to create associations using their etymology and also their historical context and how they've been used. Today, I actually am going to do something different. I'm going to be focusing on alliteration and assonance. And the reason why I'm going to be doing that is because I just listened to this song called Fuel by JID and Eminem, and I really liked how they were playing with a lot of assonance and alliteration. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to be dubbing over this because I would like to actually concentrate on the writing rather than try to have to speak and write. So that's going to be a little bit of a change. Let's get into it. What am I doing? So as I said, I'm going to be working with alliteration and assonance today. The goal is just to write freely. Oftentimes when you write freely, hopefully you write nonsensically. Of course, write the way you want to write and the way you feel most comfortable writing. The reason why I say hopefully it's nonsensically is because I do believe that sometimes we get trapped into patterns of meaning. And what I mean by trapped into patterns of meaning is that we write the same sentence over and over and over again because we know the words, we know the sound of them, we know the cadence. And so sometimes by writing nonsensically, we emancipate ourselves from that. Notice how, for example, I'm actually not too concerned with spelling. I'm an okay speller, but obviously when you don't use the word yodeler a lot, you can forget. If I do misspell a word, I always go back, look up the spelling, and retype the word using the correct spelling. That way, I'm just trying to get the words into my fingers. The sound of the words, the cadence. Yeah, as I said, the reason why I started to do this alliteration and assonance exercise is because of the song that I heard by Eminem and JID. Actually, it's also, I believe it was Ursula K. Guin in one of her books on writing said that this was a very good exercise. And again, all it's meant to do is just allow you to flow, allow you to play, allow you to make sound. And hopefully, again, those happy accidents occur. And when you get those happy accidents, then you can either build from it or even take it and use it somewhere else. But we're not too concerned with meaning. We're just concerned with sound. And I think that this is something that a lot of writers, particularly writers in creative nonfiction or fiction, sometimes forget that sound is so important when you're actually writing. I shouldn't be having so much difficulty with the word flabbergasted. But some days you wake up and you can spell better than other days. I don't know what it is. But anyways, to go back to my main point, the idea is sound. A lot of people are missing out on kind of like the free flow and the play. So for example, here, I'm using a lot of words that I wouldn't typically use just because they maybe have the right sound, or they maybe have the right syllable construction, or they maybe have the right alliterative resonance that I'm looking for. I used to listen to a lot of rap, particularly when I was growing up. And what I liked about it was its usage of so many different sound principles and how it was filled with play and movement and cadence and double entendre and maybe even like little moments of absurdity. The main part about it was the sound, because I guess I would consider myself somewhat of a poet first. When I teach young writers poetry, they think that the end rhyme is the be-all and end-all. So what these young poets will do is they'll just make it so everything in the line works towards the end rhyme. And by doing that, they just emphasize the end rhyme and empty the line itself of any kind of flourish or sound or play. It starts to kind of sound Mickey Mouse. It starts to sound just bland. So for example, and actually you hear this with kind of people who are not the most talented rappers, they also do the same type of thing. So what they'll do is, I'm going to pretend to battle rap my cat here. What they'll do is they'll just focus on the end rhyme. So for example, here's a couple lines. You stupid cat, all you want to do is chat, rolling around on your grody bath mat. So I'm not a rapper. Just so give me a little bit of grace here. So what they've done is they've just overemphasized cat and chat and the mat. And so that becomes the be all and end all of the piece. But when you're working with not just rhyme, but you're working with alliteration and assonance and rhyme and repetition, then what ends up happening is that the sentences, the frame of the sentences actually become much more interesting. They become much more playful. So for example, if I'm going to do the same poem a little bit, maybe not the same poem, but the same rhyme scheme, you can see that just by adding a little bit of alliteration changes it. So for example, pitter pat, little cat. So what we have there is we have PP, the pitter pat. We have the t, pitter, and then pat. So we have the t. Is that a dental fricative? I'm not sure. I forgot my linguistic. So you have pitter pat, little cat, maybe bad boy with a tattered lower back tat, bath mat, so old it's looking like a black mat. Now I'm pretty proud of myself actually there. That was much better than I thought it would be, but by just looking at the way that you start adding sound within the lines, suddenly it starts to get more fleshed out. The kind of the repetition of cat with tattered and tat, a back tat. Then you also have bad boy, like I think that's what it was, BB, and then back tat, bath mat. So that's a BM, black mat. So you can see how, for example, this can really help in terms of fleshing out the sound within the sentence. Now, am I saying that you need to go and do this within your own writing, particularly prose? I think it can be useful at certain times, but at other times it can actually take the reader out of the actual engagement with the story. So you want to be careful with how you do it, but obviously there's rhyme and rhythm and sound within every sentence. Why not use it? And also, if you think about it, the way that you can draw people in to different cadences or surprise them is by asking them to follow you in a certain rhythm and then changing that rhythm. So for example, I'm just going to do it with the rhyme scheme. I think it was, so how did it go? Bad boy with tattered lower back tat. And now if I want to switch up the rhyme scheme in the next sentence, or move the reader to think that I'm going in a certain direction and then go in a completely different direction, what I can do is I can take the vowel within the rhyme in the last line and I can use it within the next line and then modify sentence structure to kind of create a completely different kind of rhyme scheme. So for example, if I say, how does it go? Bad boy with a tattered back tat, blacked out at a frat house. So now notice how I'm going from the cat black to out, and because blacked out is sort of a word that I think we understand and know, it forces us to change the rhythm, and now I'm out and house, right? So we can move between different rhythms and cadences, assuming that the reader is going to follow us, or the listener is going to follow us. Blacked out, oh Jesus, black tat, blacked out at a frat house. Oh, I rhymed myself into a little bit of a corner here. House, grouse, mouse. So, shoot. Blacked out at a frat house, so doused with mace, police think he's a fat grouse. I don't know. Whatever the case is. Actually, that's not bad, but it's not the best, but it's interesting. My cat is really taking a beating here. But notice how, for example, just by doing that, I allow myself to kind of like move to a different kind of rhyme scheme construction. But not only that, I also have different repetitions. So previously, I had pitter pat, right? So the T's, little, and the double T's, tattered. But now I'm trying to go into a different construction, but it's house, douse, mace, right? So the s and police. So just to give you a sense of the full pieces, I have pitter pat, little cat, bad boy with a tattered lower back, tat, bath mat, so old it's looking like a black mat. So that's the first one. And the second one is pitter pat, little cat, bad boy with a tattered lower back, tat, blacked out at a frat house. So doused in mace, police thinking he looked like a fat grouse? It's so silly. Anyways, but the idea here is that, again, I'm just changing the repetition. I'm changing the movement. I'm providing the reader with different kinds of sounds, different types of moments. In the everyday free write, that's kind of what we're just playing with. We're just playing with sound and playing with concepts, trying to find happy little accidents. Nothing needs to be absolutely perfect. It can be what it is. Yeah, just let yourself play. Let yourself be joyous in the process. And remember, my cat with its bath mat, so old, it's got a black mat. It's not great. No, it's great. It's great. That's what we're doing. We're talking about ourselves as if we're really great and we're kind of really happy with ourselves, and we should be because we're writing, and that's the most important part. Write, and have fun with the writing. I'm not going to repeat how much I do not rap, but I enjoy rap. And I enjoy rap for the reasons that I kind of like pointed out, in terms of all the sound and alliteration and movement that is naturalized within the actual genre itself. And sometimes we don't allow that within our own writing. And I think, why not? It's sad to kind of not. I think sometimes we have to kind of recognize that there are opportunities for a lot of poetic techniques within prose that we're not using. And this has been there's a book called A Book of Poetry called Eunoia by Christian Wolff. It's a lipogrammatic constraint. That is that each chapter is named after a vowel, and each chapter only uses words that use that vowel. And so the book's claim to fame is that the author went through the dictionary many, many times looking for these words. I'm not sure why they needed to go through the dictionary like that, but the idea there is that when you read the book, you get a sense of the character of the vowel. Now, this is a very interesting kind of process, and I think it kind of lends itself to what we're doing here with alliteration and assonance. We're trying to get some sound out of these poetic tools and techniques. And by getting that sound out of the poetic tools and techniques, what we're doing is we're crafting something that has character that comes from the language itself, that has character and sound that comes from the alliterative response of certain consonants, certain vowels, etc. This has been a little bit more of a discussion about, I guess, poetry than prose, but I think they go hand in hand, and I think it does everybody a disservice to think about them as separate. So many of the techniques that you learn from one are applicable to the next, right? Storytelling techniques are very useful within poetry, just like poetic techniques are very, very useful in creating sensory impressions within the reader in prose, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. Anyways, I hope that this was interesting. I don't know enough about rap, and additionally, I didn't talk about a lot of the different elements of rap. Actually, I didn't talk about the cadence, enunciation that's required, double entendre, the puns, the wordplay, bars. So I think I hope I'm not doing a disservice. I'm more thinking about the poetic techniques that it uses and how they function. Anyway, thanks so much again for listening to Otherwise Words, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ta! All right. So that's our free write for today. I hope that was playful and comforting in whatever way it's possible. And hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.